The EPA uses statistical models known as integrated assessment models to estimate the value of the social cost of carbon, SCC, social cost of carbon. And by that they mean carbon dioxide, which is totally different from carbon. But they use this integrated assessment model to estimate the value of the social cost of carbon, which is defined as the economic damage that 1 ton of CO2 emitted today will cause over the next 300 years. Now keep in mind the Weather Service can't predict the weather a week from now, but the EPA is going to predict the damage that 1 ton of CO2 emitted today, emitted from the coal burning power plant generating electricity that you're using right now, the damage that your electricity will cause over the next 300 years. And you may guess, how in the world can they come up with such an estimate? Well, out of thin air. It's all crap. But a crucial part of their assessment is what I've already touched on in previous videos. It has to do with how much warming we will get by a doubling of CO2. CO2 is 400 parts per million. If CO2 doubles to 800 parts per million, how much will the climate warm? And they use the climate forecasters that report to the IPCC, use models that cannot accurately mimic the Earth's complex climate system because it's not understood. You can't model something that you don't know. You can't model something that you don't understand. But nevertheless, they attempt to come up with models that predict how much warming will occur if CO2 doubles. And that is known as the climate sensitivity equilibrium. How much warming will you get? And the way to describe that is climate sensitivity. How much will the climate warm if CO2 doubles? Well, the EPA uses that bogus estimate and their determination of the cost of carbon emitted today over the next 300 years. How much will it cost? How much damage will it do? How much harm will you do to your neighbors in the years to come by lighting your home using electricity that is generated from a coal burning power plant? The EPA is trying to come up with a number. Why on earth would you try to come up with something so vague and so insubstantial? Why? Well, because that number that they come up with, the cost of the CO2, is what they're going to use to make you pay for the harm that you are doing for the next 300 years. Well, it's very possible that the CO2 emitted today will cause zero harm. In fact, it may produce a benefit, but they assume from the get-go that it will cause harm. It will cause a hurricane. It will destroy Atlantic City, and they'll have to rebuild the boardwalk and the casinos, and that's going to cost millions and millions of dollars. And that was caused by the CO2 that you produced by using electricity produced by a coal-burning power plant. That cost has to be paid by you. You did it. You must pay. And the EPA is busily figuring out how much you must pay. And the way to make you pay is to raise the cost of your electricity. Even though Congress has rejected Obama's cap and trade scheme, Obama, through his agency, the Environmental Protection Agency, is regulating carbon emissions, carbon dioxide emissions, by fiat, executive action. It's an imperial presidency type of thing. Obama will do whatever he pleases if we'll let him get away with it. Obama has decided that your electricity rates must go up because you're destroying the planet. The EPA is coming up with numbers. How much does a ton of CO2 cost down the road? And by the way, a ton of CO2, to get your mind on it, a ton of CO2 is about the amount of CO2 that a tree will absorb in its lifetime, or in a space of 50 years. But think of a 1 ton of CO2 as representing your average tree. That's your average tree uses about a ton, roughly, generally speaking. That's what a ton is. But in Obama's mentality, that CO2 is not plant fertilizer. That is a threat to the planet. The EPA will make you pay for destroying the planet. All right, even if they institute this, which is in the works and just about ready to go, just about ready to be enforced soon they will put regulations on existing coal-burning power plants. Even if all this is enacted, and if your rates go up, it will have no effect on the amount of CO2 in the Earth's atmosphere. And as a matter of fact, developing countries such as China and India will continue building more coal-burning power plants and quickly overwhelm the slight reduction that the USA might make by reducing carbon emissions. So what good will it do? It will do no good at all. It'll simply cripple the United States economically. It will further cripple the United States economically. Is Obama crazy, or is he a terrorist just as bad, just as deadly as ISIS, Al-Qaeda? Apparently so. A madman bent on destruction, a madman fueled by rage directed toward you because you are an American. I believe at the root of all this is a bizarre type of mental illness. It's come to my attention, and I think more people should know.